Well, hi again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. I'm Harper LaBelle. Along with me today is our co-host and founder, Vincent Turner. Vincent, we don't have Juan Daniels tonight. He has another obligation that he has to be at. His daughter, obviously, very important in his life. She has a game, and so we are going to fly solo this evening. So, Captain, please buckle your seatbelts. Put your seat backs in the upright position, and let's get ready to take this SEC show off.
Hey, very sorry we don't have Mr. Juan Daniels tonight, but that's okay. But I hope he's doing well. Family is always a presence, his first obligation as a head of the family. So all I can say, Mr. Daniels, I hope you're doing well. War Eagle, baby. Back to your heart.
That's, that's right. He has a special affinity for obvious reasons. His son is playing there, so we always want to talk about Auburn War Eagle Tigers. And again, we'll miss him here this evening, but we are going to discuss a few of the things that are going on right now. Vince, before we get into it a little bit, let's talk where the standings are here in the SEC. I
hmm
am looking at 9 teams that are undefeated or have only one loss. There's one of those 9 has 2 losses, but in the conference, they're either undefeated or have only one loss. I'm going to start with the top. Mississippi at 6-0, Texas A&M at 6-0 are both 3-0. Obviously, they're undefeated in the conference. Alabama is 5-1, but they're also 3-0 in the conference. So we're going to throw them in, even though they have one loss. That was the Florida State loss from the beginning of the year. Georgia is 5-1. Their only loss is a conference loss. They're 3-1 in the conference. LSU has only played 3 games in the conference, along with Tennessee. They are both 5-1. Texas is 4-2 overall, but they're 1-1 in the conference. And then Missouri, Oklahoma, and Vanderbilt are all 3 5-1, and they're 1-1. They've only played 2 conference games. I'm going to add Mississippi State at 4-2, but they're 0-2 in the conference. So even though their record is good, and they could be ranked if they win this week, we'll talk about that in a few moments. They're still trailing, and they're far behind, so to speak, with 2 losses in the conference. So I'm going to put them in a special category that even though they've got a winning record, they're not a part of this conversation, at least not in the top 9. So Vincent, your thoughts here, and first and foremost, when we get started on the show, to talk a little bit about the SEC standings.
Well, I said this on a show last night on our NFL Draft Prospects show with Mr. Brian LaBelle and Joey Cleanscales. I say the best conference in America is the SEC. It's been for the last 15, 20 years. All you have to do is check the NFL rosters. And you looking at the competition this year with Oklahoma and Texas joining the league, it's almost like the NFL. Every week, you better bring your chin strap and have it strapped and ready to go. I'm not surprised. And it just shows you quality football in the South is the best. I don't mean to offend anybody up there in the Midwest. I don't mean to offend anybody on the West Coast. But the best football is played down here. And you just heard the young man here, the handsome guy from California, just read down all the school's records. So that should prove it. And if you think that I might be a little crazy tonight or insane, all you got to do is check the NFL rosters. Baker Mayfield, right now the MVP. What did he play ball at, Harper?
Oh, he's
Oklahoma.
a he's an Oklahoma Sooner, Boomer Sooner. Yep.
What conference is Oklahoma in right now?
Right now, they're in the Southeastern Conference.
Thank you. Back to you, sir.
All right. Well, there's still 1,200 and I don't know, not 12, 2,399 other players that are in the league, but a great majority of them come from SEC schools. And so I agree with you in the fact that they've got some of the best players for obvious reasons. They get drafted, they make it, they get to stay. But week to week, goodness gracious, I mean, where do you take a week off? You can't. So, yes, I know there are Big Ten folks that are saying, well, you can't take a week off. Look at what Northwestern did to Penn State. Um, you
That's
got a point. I'm just saying that I agree that I think there's more guys that run a 4.3 in the SEC than there are in the Big Ten. We'll see. It's just a debate, and if you can prove me wrong, please go ahead and do so. All right, Vince, so let's get to the games, though. The first one here at noon at First Bank Stadium there in Nashville. Vanderbilt at 5-1. They take on the LSU Tigers. The Bayou Bengals have, I won't say a lot of problems, but they can fix a lot of the woes that they've had this year. They come in, they're 2-1 in their conference, they're 5-1 overall, and they're kind of sneaky good. They're ranked, what is it, number 10 in the country right now. Vanderbilt is number 17, but Vandy is a 2.5 point favorite according to one of the spreads. I know we don't talk a lot about the points, but I have to admit that is a little bit of a surprise to me, where a higher ranked team is listed as an underdog. I think specifically that's just because they're on the road.
Well, basically, let's say this. LSU is kind of underperformed offensively, which is a shock to everybody out there because coming into the season, they said Garrett Nussmeier was the best quarterback in the country and the number overall pick on
Yeah,
some boards to go in the 2026 NFL draft. He just hasn't been healthy, and their offense has struggled with no running game. Their defense has played up to a par where we thought they was going to be, bringing in Masoom Delaney from Virginia Tech, Jay Pyburn from Florida, what's the young man, Patrick Payton from Florida State, and Whit Weeks has played at a high level along with Harold Perkins Jr. So that's the problem with LSU. And think about last week against South Carolina. I think they had the ball inside South Carolina red zone 3 times. I think they came away twice with no points in the field goal. Now with Vanderbilt, it's all about Diego P. I'm gonna call him that this evening. They had a real tough game against Alabama, lost that football game, but this is a very tough Vanderbilt team. It's a different Vanderbilt team. So I can understand why Vandy is a 2 point favorite because LSU has struggled so much offensively. I call this the elimination game. You lose this game, you're going to fall down the bars, and you're probably not going to make the college football playoffs. The winner, the door is still open, and the lane is still wide open for you. Back to
yeah,
you, Hop.
yeah. I would agree with that. This is one of the many games that in the SEC scheduling over the next couple of weeks, Vincent. I think it's fair to say that every week is going to be critically important for
Yes,
you to
sir.
at least continue to have a chance. And only the strong survive. So this will be one of those games. I agree with you. Vandy, you said Diego Pavia. He's had He's had a really good season thus far. Is he able to do it one more time? I'm not against Vandy, but I've said before they were 5-0. They could end up 5-5 with the way that their schedule rolls out, and LSU could beat them for obvious reasons. They're number 10 team in the country. We will have to see. It's at 12 o'clock noon is the kick. It's on ABC. The next game at 12:45 that we're going to talk about is Oklahoma. We just mentioned something about South Carolina. OU is 14 in the country, right? That's their ranking. They're 5-1. They're 1-1 in the conference. Is it disappointing to be 3-3 right now in South Carolina? Is that a problem that you see with the Beamer coaching staff and everybody else, or is because of the schedule and the way that they have been playing right now? That's a good place to be.
I like to tell the people out there, see my co-host and lead guy from California, he's being modest tonight because he knows that I was very high on Shane Beamer after the first 2 games. And everybody at 100 yards knew that. So now I got egg on my face. South Carolina 3-3. They've struggled mightily. Lenore Sellers has been up and down because of the offensive line. Last week they had a problem with penalties. I believe they fired their offensive line coach, and I'm correct, and named a former Georgia State head coach, Sean Elliott, as the offensive line coach this week. They had 13 penalties against LSU. So Hop, you played the game at a high level. I let you tell the audience out there what does that mean when your team constantly keep having a high level of penalties. Now with OU need to take a step back and maybe pump the brakes. I was very surprised how they played against Texas.
Yeah,
I really was. I was surprised as Texas dominated them on the offensive side of the ball. What did do? Sack John McTeer, what, 6 times? He threw 3 interceptions. That was really surprising to me, more than anything. So you're looking at this football game. Obviously, it's a huge game first for South Carolina because you lose this, you go 3-4, and now maybe I'm not trying to start anything this evening, or I'm trying to get clicks and views here at 100 Yards Football. Shane Beamer might be going to that seat that we call very hot. Then you got Oklahoma. This is a game that I think is more critical to you because leading up to that game, all the Boomer Sooner faithful was talking about Oklahoma was a legitimate team for not the conference championship, the national championship.
yeah, yeah,
Back to you, Hop.
yeah. They were. This is a bounce back year for them for obvious reasons. Brent Venables had a rough year last year. They go into that Texas game in Dallas. That's a road game. They got to go back on the road again. And real quick, if I can make just a quick comment regarding Sean Elliott and the offensive line there at South Carolina. It's such a fragile relationship that you have between the receivers, the tight ends,
Mm-hmm.
running backs, quarterback. If you can't protect your quarterback at an SEC level school, the linebackers are faster, the safeties read quicker, the cornerbacks
Mm-hmm.
converge on the ball in a way that you have to protect your quarterback. And it's just critical at the college level anyways, but at the SEC level, when you have to throw and you can't, guess what? Someone's going to be replacing you. And that goes maybe a little bit on the coach, but the players are the ones that have to do something about it. Maybe they haven't been coached up. I get it. You got to work on some things, but we'll see how that turns out. This will be a big game. 5-1 again against 3-3. Gamecocks can do a whole lot to kind of get themselves back in the thick of it. They have 3 losses already in the conference. That's the part that is going to be really tough. But remember last year, this is a team that was just on the verge. Everyone's saying if we had one more chance, if we had one less loss, we would be in the playoff. A lot different for them right now, very much so. We'll see how that turns out there. That should be a good ball game, though. I may want to stop what I'm doing to watch a little bit of that game. Here's another one, Pig Suey, right? Arkansas Razorbacks 2-4. They're 0-2 in the conference. They can do a whole heck of a lot to turn things around to take on nationally ranked number 4 Texas A&M. They're 6-0. They're 3-0 in the conference. This game will be at 3:30, Vincent, on ESPN.
Like I said, I was very hurt that Sam Pittman lost his job a couple of weeks ago. Me being an Arkansas alum, um, they don't have nothing to lose. Taylor Green is a very good quarterback. Last week he had 256 yards in the loss to Tennessee. Played excellent. And Arkansas made a comeback in that football game and lost it 34-31. Texas A&M, Mike Elko, hey, we knew that he was a hell of a coach at Duke. Are we surprised what he's doing at A&M? Marcel Reed is playing at a high level, the quarterback. Lavon Moss is an outstanding football player, one of the best running backs in the country. They got 2 NFL receivers in KC Concepcion and Mario Craver. Texas A&M was playing what we thought they can play under Mike Elko. So this is a game that A&M has to keep winning to keep in the mix. As far as Arkansas, I guess they might be playing for Bobby Vitrino to come back and be the head coach. That's what I'm seeing. So at the end of the day, Pig Suey, the Hogs, but A&M is gonna, I think, gonna take it to the house up there in Fayetteville.
Yeah, this game is a Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville, and um, it's just personal for me. If you want Bobby Petrino to be your head coach, you go right ahead. You had him before, and let's show the picture of him in the neck brace after that motorcycle. After that accident, there was an accident on the road with.
See, y'all don't know my man. I love this
Come
man
on,
here
come
because
on.
he had instigated. He had.
You can't find anyone else to coach your team. You bring the same guy back that did all that. It's just
Yeah.
it's whatever. But Mike Elko, thank you for bringing him up. Who would have thought that A&M at this point of the season would be number 4 in the country? They'd be 6-0 and undefeated. They'd be ahead of Ole Miss, not by much, but they're higher ranked than Ole Miss, and I think that's a surprise as well as far as how good those two teams have turned things around for themselves. And Elko's done a heck of a job, and the guys are all in. I saw some video of him last year. He's a player's coach. The kids love him. They play hard for him. They'll go through a wall for him. And guess what? They're beating everybody. This should be another game. I don't see an upset special here. I see a team that's going to come in. We're nationally ranked. We're going to bow our chest out a little bit. We're going to do everything we can to win this game. Will Arkansas win it? I don't know. I don't think so. But if they do, Arkansas has the ability to do that. Maybe Petrino gets some things going and their offensive line protects their quarterback and they score 47 points. I don't know if they can do that against A&M's defense, but it'll be fun to watch regardless. But congratulations to Elko and everybody at A&M. The Aggies are for real. Everyone's talking about, a couple of the teams that are for real and whatever. I believe that A&M is up there as well. All right. I'm just real simple. Let's look at the next game. This one will be at 3:30 in Athens. And for you Georgia Bulldawg fans, I'm not sure if you're a little nervous right now, but you might be. And I would not give you a hard time for being nervous. You played well, but not great against Auburn on the road. You get to come home, but now you better play great this week, Vincent. If they don't play well, Georgia's looking on the wrong end of. They would be 3-2 right now. They're 3-1. They're 5-1 overall. Mississippi is undefeated. They're 3-0 in the conference. They've already played 3 games, so they're kind of ahead of everybody else when it comes to that. But Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin, they're coming in. They're going to be fast. They're going to be smart. They're going to be decisive offensively. They're going to do some things very quickly that Georgia may not have seen yet. And Georgia better get some points on the board if they're going to be able to respond to what Ole Miss can do.
I'm gonna tell you how I see this football game. Lane Kiffin has done a hell of a job at Ole Miss down there in Oxford, but you know what? I'm gonna call him James Franklin too. He ain't won a big game that's mean a lot for Ole Miss to move up the ladder and play in the college football playoffs and play for a national championship. Remember last year they had a chance to make the playoffs and they dropped the ball in Florida and lost that Florida game. You looking at Ole Miss, they got everything going for them. Trinidad Chambliss, 1,286 yards on the year. They got NFL talent at the receiver position. Kwan Lace is one of the better backs. But this game here, I want to really see is Lane Kiffin and got Ole Miss where they need to go. And that's playing for a national championship. I'm going to keep it honest. Now with Georgia, I think they got the best coach in the conference. I've been saying that. Georgia hasn't played good football, like you said, Harper. But they got to win at Tennessee. Last week they were able to make the play against Auburn and made some plays were counted. And see, you got to understand something. When Georgia plays in games like this, they usually play real well and they really answer the bell. It's nothing that Georgia's going to do different. I think really if Georgia comes out and run the football very well early on in the game, I think they're going to win the football game. Last week, for every reason, Auburn had a hell of a game plan, and Georgia couldn't really get the running game going. But in the second half, you saw what happened. They made more plays, and Georgia defense is starting to play real well. They got a lot of young players on the defensive side of the ball, and they started to step up. But this is a game, okay, Ole Miss. You say you national championship quality, not Southeastern Conference quality. I'm talking about winning it all. When
Yeah.
Lane Kiffin, this is a game you got to have. You coming in a hostile environment. You coming to Athens. You talk a lot of smoke, and you talking about how good you are in Oxford. Okay, you on front center right here. You got Georgia, highly ranked team. Your team is what, number 4 in the country? Let's see what you can do. Back to you, Hart.
Well, let me just look at a 3-point win at Tennessee, a 3-point loss at home against Alabama, number 17 Alabama at the time. They've moved up. Um, a 2.5 no, 3 touchdown lead against Kentucky, and they win by 10 against Auburn. They play Ole Miss here. They get a week off. Then they got Florida in the great
Cocktail,
cocktail party.
yeah, cocktail
Mississippi
party.
State. Then they got Texas. Then they play UNC Charlotte, and then against Tech this year. And for obvious reasons, the Tech game is going to be a lot different than maybe what it has been in the past. So
Yes, sir.
it still has some important games at the end of the schedule. You said something about Lane Kiffin that would capture my curiosity. Sometimes you need to lose a big game before you win one. And Lane Kiffin's had a couple of losses. You mentioned that game at Florida. Jackson Dart kind of threw an interception late in the game.
Correct.
And that cost more than I think what a lot of Rebel fans were ready for. They thought, hey, maybe this is the year. Well, now this is the year because there isn't any reason you could say my offense or my defense or even my special teams isn't good enough to participate on the national level. When I saw them earlier in the year up close and personal, I said, this team is good. They could be very good. They lost their quarterback, and they've made some replacements. They're just as good with Trinidad. So I'm very impressed with Ole Miss. They need to win this game on the road to really exemplify where their standing should be. They'll be a top 3 team, no doubt, if they win it. Here's what their schedule looks like. After this game, they'll play Oklahoma, South Carolina, the Citadel, Florida, and Mississippi State. They could run the table. So if they win this one, and they know it, Lane Kiffin coaches right, this could be an undefeated team going into the playoffs. So it's a very interesting dynamic, but they got to get through Athens first, and that's not going to be easy to do. All right, next game that we're going to look at, this is Mississippi State. We mentioned Florida just a moment ago. Mississippi State on, let's see, they will be traveling to Florida at 4:15 on the SEC network. They're 4-2 right now. Florida's 2-4. So this is one of those games that a few years ago, this would have been such a lopsided game where Florida would be favored to win. But on the road, I think the Aggies have a really good chance to upset Florida or to keep them down. But Florida's played well the last couple of weeks.
Well, I read something before I came on the show this evening, and came over social media. They said if Florida loses this game, expect Billy Napier will be fired this weekend on Sunday. So you're looking at a game, I guess, that Florida really needs this to say their coach's job. Um, Mississippi State 4-2 on the year. Jeff Lebby has got them going back in the right direction with Blake Shaper and being healthy this
Yeah.
year. The quarterback transfer from Baylor's played real well. And then you're looking at Florida going back to them. I think it's an animal. We just been kind of sugarcoating it, but let's be honest. Billy Napier has been on the hot seat from day one. After since they lost to South Florida, if they didn't really run the table and really get into the championship mix, I knew he's not going to probably be the head coach. To be honest, I'm surprised he's still at the helm down there in Gainesville. Now, I don't know his buyout, but I know what I read before I came in this evening. They said if Florida loses this weekend, expect Billy Napier to be fired. So I'm going to leave it at that and give it back to you. I'm not going to do that this evening because the Gator Chop is over with.
I saw something before we went on the air that said that Tim Tebow will be named the next Florida
Stop
head
the
coach.
madness.
I
Stop the
know.
madness.
I wanted to say whoever penned that needs to take a step back. Also, that's come on.
But
You
I
got, you,
but I heard something, not to cut you off, and I apologize. I heard something that was very interesting yesterday morning. Now they said Billy Napier will be let go this year. Don't be surprised James Franklin ends up down in Gainesville
well,
after he got released from Penn State. And that's on that Big Ten show tomorrow. But I heard that yesterday morning on
yeah,
another show.
yeah. That's because he's the only one available. Everybody else that you would want has a job, right? Everybody's got a job. You got to wait. Ridiculous. Now, Deshaun Foster at UCLA, yeah, he's looking for work too. But other than that, come on, guys, you just give it some time. Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, 4:15. As I said, this is an SEC network show. It'll be on there, and the Gators will host the Aggies from Mississippi State Bulldogs. Kentucky here in Lexington at Kroger Field be taking on number 21 ranked Texas. Texas comes in, they're 4-2, they're 1-1 in the conference. I'm disappointed if I'm Kentucky right now. If I'm a Wildcat fan, I'm a little disappointed. We're 2-3, we're 0-3 in the conference. Nowhere to go but up. But being down, going 0-4, you certainly don't want that to happen.
um, I look at it like this. This is why I love you. Let's be realistic here. There's another job that's going to probably have a pink slip on it. Mark Stoops, I think you would not be the head coach in Lexington the end of the year. So we got another Southeastern Conference school that's going to be looking for a head coach. Now,
Yeah.
Kentucky is a different type of animal because the Bluegrass State, they basketball, man. So it's very, Mark Stoops did a hell of a job since he's been there. He's won what I never expected a Kentucky coach to win at that level. So it's going to be interesting to see who takes that job. I guarantee it that he'll be out with a job at the end of the year. Now to my Texas Longhorns. What you did last week really shocked me personally. I thought y'all was dead in the water. Arch Manning played a little bit like he was a first round pick to be the first pick in the generational talent that we talked about coming into this season. But it was the Texas defense that played real well against OU. Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, Michael Tafford. Those guys played at a high level, and they shut down John McTeer in the Oklahoma offense last week. So this is a game I expect Texas to roll up there in the Bluegrass State. They still in the mix as far as a college football playoff. They still got Georgia coming up to on the schedule. They coming to Athens. The Longhorns are gonna roll in this one. Back to you, Hawk.
You said something earlier about taking the job at Kentucky. I have given Kentucky credit for years now of being an organization and running a school, and you got a budget. You've got to have people that are on the right page. There's lots of politics and red tape that gets in when the president of the school or the athletic director, they don't see eye to eye on how money should be spent and how you work things out. But I thought Kentucky did so much more than other teams that were in lower levels of the
Mm-hmm.
SEC to catch up, right? They haven't been able to surpass anybody yet. That's the part. They were getting a lot of 3-star athletes. Now they're starting to get some 4 stars in football, not basketball, of course. Basketball, they're in a world all to themselves, but they were catching up faster than I thought some of the others. If you're going to catch the guy that's in front of you, you got to run faster than he's running in order to catch him. If he's running at 8 miles an hour and you're running at 5, you're never going to catch him. You're going to lose ground. Even if you go at 8 and he's going at 8, you're going to stay the same distance behind. So that's just one of the things that I noticed. And maybe I'm wrong, but that this year is probably a disappointment in that, being 0-3 in the conference at this point, and then having Texas nationally ranked. And then at one point they were the number 1 team in the country. If you get out of this, okay, you might tear some goalposts down there in Lexington. But if you don't, and you're 0-4, I don't know where you go to get a good feeling about your football team. It's just going to be a tough week if you don't win this one. But hey, that's the way the schedule goes, and that's how tough it is in the SEC. Again, this game at Kroger Field in Lexington, it is at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Next game that we're going to talk about, this has national ramifications for obvious reasons, and this is a rivalry, Vincent, that probably goes back to when you were just a little weezer. You can remember games when Tennessee and Alabama were playing, and they were playing for something important. This game is on ABC. It's also at 7 o'clock. Excuse me. It's at 7:30. I apologize. Number 11, Tennessee. They're 5-1. They're 2-1 in the conference against number 6, Alabama. They're undefeated in the conference. They're 5-1 overall. Vincent, take it away.
Third week in October. That's what they used to say in the state of Tennessee. Bring like a lot of memories. You're correct, Harper. When I was growing up in Memphis, huge Tennessee fan, John Ward. He used to the great announcer for the University of Tennessee, the best I think they ever done it in the Southeastern Conference. He used to have a saying, the measuring stick is Bear Bryant in the University of Alabama. And Tennessee back in the day was owned by Alabama. But when they beat Alabama, it was like Super Bowl in the state of Tennessee. And I remember the 82 season. Probably the most, I want to say the most memorable season for me. Tennessee ended up 6-5-1 that year. They went to the Peach Bowl, lost to Iowa. And the reason was so memorable because I had 4 guys out of my neighborhood I grew up in that played at Tennessee, and 2 of them were starting on defense. Carlton Peoples and Mark Studaway. And they were 2-1 that year. They had lost to Duke, they had lost to Auburn, and Alabama had came off a big win the previous week against Penn State, who ended up winning the national championship that year under Todd Blackledge. And Tennessee beat them in Knoxville. And I remember it was the first time that I actually saw Tennessee fans tear the goalpost down and carry it out the field. And they had the great Johnny Majors up in the air. And that Alabama team was pretty good with Jeremiah Castile and Walter Lewis. Now to the game on Saturday night. To be honest, Harper, can I share you a true story? I
Please
wish I
do.
had I wish I had tickets. I wish I was in Tuscaloosa on Saturday. This is a huge football game. College football playoff elimination game. You got 2 teams that got hell of a quarterbacks. Joey Allegara is played outstanding. We don't even think about Nico White no more. I'm sorry, not me, but the Tennessee faithful. Chris Brazil has played himself into an NFL prospect, a receiver, who's had an outstanding year. And then on the other side, Ty Simpson. I knew this coming into this year about the University of Alabama. They struggled against Florida State and lost that game. But I came out of that game and I said, if that quarterback that's out of Martin, Tennessee, I saw some things this week that a lot of people in Tennessee call him a traitor. Ty Simpson.
Simpson, yeah.
I said if Caleb DeBoer gets him correct, he's going to have a Michael Penix type season. And man, since that Florida State game, I'm telling you this, Alabama's had wins over three ranked teams, three really good football teams: Georgia, Missouri, and Vanderbilt. They've beaten Georgia and Missouri on the road. And Ty Simpson right now, if I had to say we had the ceremony in New York, he would get my vote for the Heisman Trophy. And if they
Really?
beat, yes sir, if they beat
Really?
Tennessee,
Okay.
look at the landscape now. He's beaten top 10, three top 25 teams and going on his fourth one. And every game he's played flawless. 16 touchdowns and two interceptions. And he's averaged almost 200 over 200 yards in them 3 games. He's spinning it out there in Tuscaloosa. And now Alabama's starting to play under Justin DeBoer. Remember last year we had our show and I told you about this fan called Legend that was calling in on the competition, PF, you know what I'm talking about, right? And
Yeah.
he said Alabama had went from Beyonce to Whoopi Goldberg. Heard him yesterday. He said now we back in the Beyonce status. Back to you, Hop.
Yeah. Well, when you win, that's pretty much what it takes. All right. Let me ask you this: you, it's few and far between when Tennessee goes on the road and the Volunteers play well. They play well, but they don't play well enough to win. What do
You
they got to
correct?
do? What do they got to do to get a surprise win? And I'll call it an upset if they get a win there at Bryant Denny there in Tuscaloosa.
Number one, turnovers to me is real critical in a football game like this. They cannot turn the ball over. Keep doing what they're doing, moving the ball in the air. Aguilera's got to play real well. Defensively, they got to slow down Alabama's offense. Alabama's got three outstanding receivers, but Alabama's not been able. They're starting to run the ball with Jam Miller coming back as a running back.
Yeah.
But to me, most of our Tennessee cannot turn the ball over and take when the opportunities come to score points. Take opportunities. And Josh Heupel has been horrendous in big football games, missing opportunities and costing his team. But that's what I think Tennessee's got to do coming in this Saturday night, not turn the ball over. This is going to be a real bang bang type football game to me. It's going to be some points scored, but this is an elimination game because both teams got one loss. Well, Alabama doesn't have a loss in the conference, but it's more huge for Tennessee. You lose 2 games, then you still have to play Oklahoma at the end of the year, Tennessee. This is a huge football game for you, man. So Alabama to me is playing with house money, with a hell of a quarterback that's spinning it, Ty Simpson.
Yeah. All right. Well, number 11 Tennessee at Tuscaloosa against number 6 University of Alabama. This should be one that there's going to be more than just a couple people watching. There'll be some other coaches, and especially some of the writers that are part of the NCAA and the selection committee, so to speak. You know, if you're getting the playoff, the winner of this game has a great chance to make it. So again, this is a 7:30 kick. It's on ABC. 5-1 Tennessee at 5-1 Alabama. Number 11 against number 6. All right, let's look at another nationally ranked team at 7:45 on the SEC network. Missouri goes to Jordan Hare Stadium. Real disappointed. I know that Juan Daniels, our co-host, has been at all the Auburn games and just that Vincent is kind of like this. He just shook his head after they lost last week. They had the chance. Um, they're just offensively they're not skipping. They're skipping a beat and they're not moving the way that they need to. Their off excuse me their defense is good enough to win, but or at least to hold them and keep them in a ball game. But here's what I want to say about Missouri before we go any further. They're 5-1. They're 1-1 in the conference. They're very good, but they were humbled last week, and so I'm interested to see how the bounce back occurs there. 3-3 Alabama, excuse me, 3-3 War Eagles in Alabama at home. They really need to turn around their 0-3 conference record. What say you?
I'm gonna start with just what you just said about Missouri. Missouri last week got, as you said, humble a little bit against Alabama. Now we're going to see is Missouri truly a team that everybody's been saying. I want to say national ranked team. They got one of the best running backs in the country, in Armand Hardy, who's got 782 yards. And last week, Missouri, I thought throughout that game against Alabama, Alabama kind of had their way with them in certain parts of the football game. But I want to see is Missouri nationally ranked. This is a get back game for them with Auburn. I'm gonna watch my words kindly this evening. They probably the best 3-3 football team in the nation right now. They got super talent, man, at their skill position. And last week, the first half against Georgia, they clearly dominated. And I know the goal line situation, one play doesn't change the game. I don't really think that really took enough air out of them because in the second half, they had plays to be made in the offensive part of the game. Remember, they had that 4th and 1, and the quarterback, not going to call his name this evening, missed that 4th and 1 throw. That was a huge play in that football game. But when you look at Auburn, I say Auburn is going to get somebody this year. And think about this last week. Through what everything happened in that football game, at times Auburn doesn't play like a team that's very disciplined, man. They had 11 penalties in that game. But when you look at their roster, Cam Coleman, he's NFL talent. Eric Singleton, NFL talent. K'Ron Crawford, the defensive end, NFL talent. Mr. Falk, the other defensive end, he's a top 5 pick. The problem is they having problems under the center. And when you look at that, that's what we got with War Eagle. But they're still, in my opinion, they still one of the best football teams in the country, even though they've had 3 losses. And think about this, Harper. The 3 teams they got losses against, Oklahoma, they could have really easily won that game on the road. Texas A&M, they had plays in that game they could have won. They only lost 16-10 in College Station. And clearly, last week against Georgia in the first half, they should have been up 17-0 at halftime. So Auburn is going to get somebody. I keep saying maybe it's Missouri, but at the end of the day, I think it's more a must-win game for Auburn because if Auburn loses this game, I hate to say it, and please don't hit my Facebook page tonight, people. But it's going to be another pink slip going down to Auburn, Alabama at the end of the year. Back to you, Hart.
Yeah, I was going to ask you. I said, if you lose this game, does Hugh Freeze does it go from freeze to hot seat to maybe looking for a job? Here's what fascinates me. I'm going to look over at the schedule right here: Central Arkansas, Kansas, Louisiana, South Carolina, UMass, then the 3-point loss to Alabama. That's the resume that Missouri Tigers have right now. Auburn is unranked, but you said they're the best 3-3 team in the country. Vanderbilt's next. Texas A&M is after that. Mississippi State after that. Then number 14 ranked Oklahoma, and then at Arkansas. Both those last 2 games, Oklahoma and Arkansas, are on the road. That they get through that unscathed. Their only losses to Alabama. I like it. However, I'm also thinking Central Arkansas and UMass. Come on, man. But that's who was on the schedule. So it'd be very interesting to see if they get their job done, the Missouri Tigers could be in the playoff. Elijah Drinkwitz is doing some amazing things there if he can hold and stay above water. This will be one of those tests. If you can't beat Auburn on the road, I don't know how you're going to do against A&M and then Oklahoma at the end of the year. So we'll see. But obviously an interesting matchup and one for a lot of folks to want to pay attention to for the reasons that you gave, because Auburn will be tough. And if they play good at home here and they get themselves right, they could come away with a 24-17 win. I can see it happening. You said, like, just last week, they should have been ahead 17-10 or 17-0. They end up losing 20-10. So everyone in Auburn wants to pull their hair out, root for that team and thinking how close it is. But this is a tough game. It's not like they get a week off. That's what the SEC does to you. You get one great opponent after another. All right, Vincent, those are the games that we have. Any final thoughts before we head out for the evening? We want to also remember that Juan Daniels was not able to join us here this evening. We certainly miss him and his excellent content. But in the meanwhile, give me final thoughts.
Huge football game in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the University of Tennessee
Yeah.
and Alabama. That's going to be a college football playoff elimination game. And it's going to be a game that I think we're going to see a lot of points. 2 quarterbacks that playing at a high level. I think it's going to come down to a little bit coaching also. Josh Heupel and Kalen DeBoer. But I'm looking forward to their game Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. Couldn't be any better. Two traditional powers out of the SEC and great players have played in that football game. Peyton Manning, Joe Namath, you can name them. Hey, it doesn't get any better than that. College football is highest level in the South. And one thing I'm gonna enjoy looking at that football game. See, I've been to a tailgate at the University of Tennessee. I've been to a tailgate at LSU. The food is gonna be good, and the alcohol is gonna be in there, and the beer is gonna be on ice. And boy, they're gonna be saying "Go Vols." I'm assuming the Tennessee band is gonna be traveling, so get ready to hear Rocky Top a lot. And then the University of Alabama. Back to you, Hawk.
Well, this is one of those games that I learned many years ago that it's not only the two teams that don't like each other, but I think the people that live in the states that go there, they do not respect or like or want to have anything to do with one another. An Alabama and a Tennessee on a football Saturday, no way. It's they'd rather see some other things happen before that. LSU and Vandy, big game. Oklahoma at South Carolina. For Oklahoma, this has got to be a bounce back for them. They can't have a second loss in a row. Texas A&M and Arkansas, big game there for the Aggies, of course. Ole Miss and Georgia, that's must-see TV. That'll be at 3:30. Mississippi State and Florida. Texas at Kentucky. Texas needs this win to get themselves back in the national prominence again. Tennessee at Alabama. Vincent just told you, everybody, this is going to be national implications there. And then Missouri at number 16. They get a nice little bounce back if they get a win at Auburn, and Auburn can do everything they can to upset that. There are still 9 teams in this 16-team conference that have access to the top. I'm not saying the others can't squeeze in, but a lot of things have to happen. Teams will have to back down. But boy, there's some others they're right there. They can make it happen. So this will be a very interesting week. And we want to say thank you for tuning in, everybody. For Vincent Turner, I'm Harper LaBelle. We'll get Juan Daniels back with us next week. But this has been the SEC preview, looking at week number 7 in the NCAA Southeastern Conference football schedule. We want to thank you for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everybody.